Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into two incredibly powerful stories that perfectly map out the journey of human resilience. We're talking about Barish Mein Garib Ke Mehman and Barish Mein Pabaji Wala. Both of these narratives center on individuals who are deeply impoverished, facing literal and figurative storms, only to have their entire destinies rewritten by one simple thing: how they treat complete strangers. So let's unpack their shared narrative DNA.
We're going to break this down through 5 main themes. We'll start with the catalyst of the storm, move into heroes in the rain, check out the test of kindness, explore jealousy and sabotage, and finally, wrap it all up with the power of karma.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the catalyst of the storm, or when weather becomes a threat. In both stories, torrential rain acts as this massive disruptive force. It immediately exposes a shared baseline of absolute destitution. For Diru, he's an orphan daily wage laborer. A leaking roof literally destroys the physical paper money he worked so hard for that day. And for Madhav, a pav bhaji seller, his unpaved roof is leaking directly over his fresh vegetables. The storm isn't just a minor inconvenience here. It's an immediate existential threat to their very survival. It perfectly illustrates the idea that a poor man fears hunger more than disease. Seriously, think about that for a second. When a passing villager warns Madhav to go home in the pouring rain just to avoid getting sick, this quote is his profound reality. If he goes home empty-handed, there's no fire in his stove that night. For him, hunger is a way more terrifying threat than a cold.
Which brings us to Section 2, heroes in the rain, and their perseverance against the odds.
You see, when a huge storm hits, the basic human instinct is to run and find shelter, right? But our guys do the exact opposite. Despite having a high fever and facing severe winds, Diru actually forces himself to work at the wealthy Talker's warehouse. He even endures these cruel taunts from villagers who literally call him cursed. Meanwhile, over in Madhav's world, the market is completely abandoned. Every other shop is closed, but he stands out there all alone, desperately shielding his food cart with just a torn piece of plastic. They are protecting their livelihoods way above their own physical comfort.
And guys, this is resilience in its purest form. It's that core capacity to withstand and recover from serious difficulties. It's the absolute toughness that keeps Diru and Madhav moving forward when literally the rest of the world has packed up and gone home to safety. They just keep pushing through the storm, waiting for a break in the clouds.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, the test of kindness and sheltering the strangers. This is where the narrative really flips. Both heroes are at their absolute lowest points, and suddenly they encounter strangers. Diru ends up taking in Raman and Janaki, this wealthy city couple who got caught under a tree. He brings them into his tiny home and treats them to a hot, lovingly prepared meal. Madhav, on the other hand, runs into some city travelers whose route got completely blocked in the dead of night. So what does he do? He fires up his stove right there in the rain, roasting bread and fresh butter for them. Both of these men are treating these vulnerable, random strangers like absolute royalty, and they aren't asking for a single thing in return.
But then, they give Madhav a 2,000 rupee tip. The wealthy travelers are just so moved by his dedication and how incredible the food tastes in the freezing rain that they hand him this massive tip. Now, for a street vendor, whose earnings were basically zero up until that exact moment, this single note is a game changer. It isn't just cash, it's the seed capital to actually dream of getting a real roof over his head.
But of course, it can't all be smooth sailing. That brings us to Section 4, jealousy and sabotage, where society pushes back.
It seems like whenever there's an act of pure good, the universe just has to throw in some friction. Take Diru. He's sick from working in the rain and accidentally drops a single sack of grain into a puddle. The wealthy owner, Takar, deliberately exploits this mistake. He demands 3 times the compensation for that one dropped sack. He forces Diru into an impossible debt, which is just a brutal representation of the imbalanced power dynamics between a wealthy landowner and a helpless laborer.
And over in Madhav's world, his newfound success sparks some serious envy in a local shopkeeper named Rajesh. And Rajesh's sabotage is totally calculated. First, he spreads malicious rumors about Madhav's vegetables being rotten. Then, he actually hires local thugs to drop pebbles into their own food just to ruin Madhav's reputation. And if that wasn't enough, he opens a rival shop using cheap, unhealthy ingredients like dalda just to undercut him. It's this massive, dedicated campaign to completely destroy an honest man.
So it leaves us with this huge question hanging over both stories. Will honesty survive the storm? when the rich demand triple compensation and jealous neighbors are literally hiring thugs to destroy your reputation? Does doing the right thing actually matter? Let's find out in Section 5, The Power of Karma and the Ultimate Resolution.
Spoiler alert, the universe absolutely balances the scales. Remember Rajesh's thugs trying to ruin Madhav's shop? Well, an undercover head constable named Raghuvir happens to be in the crowd and catches them red-handed, forcing a totally public confession. And as for Dhiru, the wealthy stranger he sheltered, Raman, notices a unique birthmark when Dhiru was changing out of his wet clothes. It turns out Dhiru was his long-lost brother. The guy who was mocked by the whole village for being a cursed orphan suddenly has a loving family and access to immense wealth.
The mechanics of karmic justice here are just working perfectly. The good get their reward, Dhiru finds his family and wealth, and Madhav gets scouted by a businessman to open this massive, luxurious highway restaurant. And the bad? They definitely get their punishment. The cruel Thakur loses his absolute best, most honest worker along with his pride. Meanwhile, Rajesh gets heavily fined and his shop is completely shut down by the Sarpanch after his cheap food ends up sickening the locals. But, this is where the story elevates from just a cool revenge tale into something truly beautiful. As the saying goes, forgiveness is the final act of wealth. Madhav is now highly successful, right? He's driving through his old village and actually sees his former enemy, Rajesh, sitting in the dust of his ruined shop. And instead of gloating, Madhav hires the very man who tried to destroy his life to be his new store manager. He literally pulls his enemy out of poverty. It is just a stunning display of humanity. It shows that our true character isn't forged when the sun is shining. It's tested when the roof is leaking. Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder for today's explainer. How do we treat strangers in our own storms? Are we just fiercely projecting our own meager resources? Or are we, like Dhiru and Madhav, firing up the stove and opening our doors? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. I'll catch you next time.